Hello, this is John, and this is the weekly water outlook for the South on August 18th, 2013. Well, these are the number of days where there's been some rain over the last week. You can see over northern parts of Texas. Actually, there was in the order of 3 or 4, right in this little band right in here. There was also a bit of rain over parts of Oklahoma, so it was actually somewhat scattered. Now, the area that's been very dry was southwest Oklahoma or Texas, where either 0 or maybe 1 day of precipitation fell. And here right along the coast, the Houston area, also a bit rainy. So we actually had a fairly scattered week as far as precipitation went over the last 7 days. Now here's the current steering winds. Fairly quiet, like you might expect in the middle of August. The jet stream's well to our north. We have an area of low pressure, and that's been producing some precipitation mainly over the southeast U.S. And a bit of precipitation over Texas in the south. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet type pattern over the last week. Now, I did want to take a look at the tropics. We're getting more and more towards the latter part of August as we begin to ramp up. And right now, it's been pretty quiet. Aaron did develop into a tropical storm, but it has weakened. It's going into somewhat unfavorable conditions. System coming off of Africa. And looking in the Gulf of Mexico, there was some disturbed weather that looked like it might have developed into some tropical plume of moisture. But right now, that area even looks pretty quiet. I don't see anything. So if I had to say where the possible tracks would be at this time, it looks to me like they're going to be dominated like they usually do by this Bermuda High. It looks like it's either going to cut off to the east of the Bermuda High or move right along the southern part of that area of high pressure. Looks to me like that could bring it perhaps into the Gulf and into the southeast U.S. if something would develop. Also, if it comes out far enough south, it could bring it into the middle Gulf. I think right now there's really no sign of much development, so let's just keep an eye on this. But right now, this Bermuda High, if it stays anchored where it does, those could be some possible tracks as we get into the latter part of the month. So here's rainfall over the last 7 days. I mentioned there was some scattered precipitation. Yellow is 2 inches, red's 3 to 4 inches. So you can see there were some areas over northern Texas, a large part of Oklahoma, that received some rain last week, and in that area of yellow, some significant rain. At the same time, there were other areas that didn't receive any rain at all. And as we see in summer, here's one example right here where there was almost 2 inches of rain indicated. Right next to it, only 1/10 of an inch on either side. So that's sort of typical for summertime, but at least there was some rain over Texas and Oklahoma. So when we look at the percent of normal for the last 7 days, you see this splotchy area. When you see this, you know precipitation was scattered. Some areas 2 to 3 times normal for the week. Some areas near 0 for the week. So really a very mixed bag, very scattered precipitation. But if we go back and we look at the 30-day, this is where I wanted to show you the bigger trends that we've seen over the summer. And you can see here a real clear dividing line between Kansas and Oklahoma. Right here is a southern extent that has been fairly wet over this early part of the summer. And then as we get into Texas, especially over the south, these red areas, very, very dry. So that's sort of been the story so far this summer, the type of pattern, even though we've had some short-term changes. From the drought monitor, you can see we still do not have any drought categories or classifications for most of Oklahoma. The western part is in D3 or an extreme drought. So it really goes from no drought over most of the state to pretty significant drought over the far western panhandle. And Texas is in varying degrees of drought, very much scattered, local. Some areas just more on the abnormally dry. That's that area in yellow. And actually the far southwest, where there's some inflow of moisture over the last couple weeks, no drought at all. But other areas are getting in that deep shade of red, which is extreme drought, or even small areas of exceptional drought over parts of West Texas. So we've had this gradient of temperature where we've had cooler temperatures up towards the north. Here's been the dividing line right through Oklahoma, where to the north it's been cool and to the south it's been dry and warm. And that's really been the story for as far as temperatures go so far in August. So here's the jet stream analysis. Usually this time of year, late August into September, the jet stream is going to be very low, very weak, very quiet type pattern. This is what I'm probably going to be talking about now for a number of months until winter begins to kick in, or late fall, I should say. But right now, it looks pretty quiet. Biggest trend this week is this area of high pressure, which is to the west, is going to gradually be pushing off east and set up right over the middle part of the nation. And where we have this area of high pressure, it's going to bow this ridge of high pressure to the north, and it's generally going to be warm or hot and dry associated with this area of high pressure. Energy is not going to be dipping down into the region. Thus, for the next 7 days, a strong dry pattern. Very possibly no rain at all over Kansas, Oklahoma, or almost all of Texas, except for the southeast Texas coast. So definitely a very dry week with that area of high pressure centered right over us. So what about week 2? Well, this is week 1 on top. Here's week 2. Still looks to me like we're looking at generally quiet and dry conditions right in this area here. That's where that area of high pressure is going to be. Jet stream might dip a little bit in this region right here, bringing some precipitation. And I can't rule out there won't be any, or there could even be maybe some weak tropical activity. I don't see it right now. But right now I think the story is an extremely dry week this week, and most likely week 2 below normal precipitation as well. And that's what it looks like at this time. So soil moisture outlook, this is initial soil moisture. These are brown shades or dry, so almost the entire region's dry, even though we've had some rain in Oklahoma earlier. The only remnants are still this little band in Kansas right now. So everybody needs some degree of rain. Unfortunately, it looks like the outlook for the next week, 18th through 25th, looks like drying soils, continued drying soils over the entire South. So the takeaway points: ridge building into the Midwest with below normal precipitation, and this pattern looks like it's going to continue right through the end of the month. Hey, up this week, we're going to have the long-range outlook on Thursday, and I will have other information going out from time to time. Thanks for listening. I'll be briefing you again next week.